I had battled with a 25-year addiction to methamphetamines. And I wasn't suicidal necessarily, but this is not the life I saw myself living.
You didn't want to live.
I didn't want to live. My goal in my life was just to outlive my mom and my best friend. And after they were gone, I was out of here because I didn't think this world had anything left for me. I kept a job, I was very functional, I was very productive, but I would sit there and I would think about, well, how am I going to do it? Because I couldn't really take my own life, and I'd think about, well, there's assisted death, but you need a terminal illness. So all of a sudden I got this mass in my breast. So this was my way out. I spent 4.5 years ignoring this, and until it couldn't be ignored anymore. And I was at my best friend's house, and she says, something's wrong. And I said, okay, don't be mad at me, but I have cancer. And I showed her my breast, which had become a fungating wound, ulcerated wound. The cancer went to the surface and was eating away the skin. She went, oh my God, really scared. And I said, but I don't want to seek Western medicine. I just want to keep it at bay, and outlive my mom. So she went on a search, and she came across this book, Becoming Supernatural. And she kind of put it on the side. She says, ooh, I want to become supernatural. And so I started reading his book, and in 3 chapters in, it just resonated with me. I was like, yes, this is it. I get it. And so I called her. I said, I'm getting the intensive and progressive course online, and I'm going to do it. And she was like, well, he also has advanced week-long retreats. I said, no, that's not for me. But I'm going to do the intensive and progressive. So I ordered it, and I started doing it with a lot of intention and a lot of hope. I started doing the intensive, got into the meditations, and I was stuck in my first energy center. And it took me a few times to get through that meditation, but once I was through, I was like, okay, game on, this is it. Kept on going, and in the progressive, the generous present moment, you say, now who do you want to be? Who's that person you want to be? And I came out of that, and I was crying, and I called my friend, and I said, I want to live, I want to live, I want to live, I want to live. I just kept on saying, I want to live, I want to live. So that was, thank you. That was my intention. Tuning into your potentials, my potential, that special symbol was to live, simple. The next meditation, pulling your mind out of your body. I was, that breath, I don't know if I was doing it right, but I was doing it. I'm sure I looked like a crazy person because I was all, I was pulling it. I was, pull that breath, and I was like, I was really doing it hard. And all of a sudden, I was overcome with this fear, this night terror fear, that I know where it came from. It came from a traumatic event, but I know where it came from. It just overcame me. And and I came out of my meditation. I said, whoa. And I called my friend again. I said, oh my God, I was just in that moment, and I just overcome. And I thought to myself, it kind of discouraged me a little bit, because I thought, well, if this is going to happen every time, this isn't going to work for me. So I took off a day, and I went back into that meditation, and I did it again, and I made it all the way through that one. And I swear to God, I overcame that addiction just like that. It was gone. It was 100% gone, without a doubt. I swear.
She's making her own opioids now.
That's right. I love that breath because it gets me that high.
Did you hear that? Did you hear what she said? That she loves the breath because it gets her high.
It does.
And she knows how to move energy. She didn't say, oh, it's stuck in my first energy center. She was like, I'm going to get it. Yeah. And of course, the memory of that trauma is stored in that center. And when energy starts to move, it's information back to the brain. Of course, the body's releasing the event. It's releasing the past. Of course, you light a match in a dark place, and it comes right up. It happens a lot of times. But the fact that she understood that something happened and she wanted to see, could I evolve my experience and something else could happen, I'm going to go at it again. Let's see, I'm willing to try it again and see what happens. And of course, one moment the energy strikes her brain and then it's over. She knew in that moment that she was no longer ever going to need to take any exogenous substance any longer, and that was the end for her. Just like that.
Yes, yes. And so I might say this, is that 3 things resonated with me with your teachings. The first was the emotional. I knew that to get to the root of this addiction was, you can't cure an addiction without getting to the root. I just never knew what the root was. So when you explained our emotional makeup and how that works, I was like, okay, that's it. The second thing, and this is a huge thing for me, it's huge, is that you didn't stigmatize one addiction over another. That was so huge, because if you're at a dinner party and you say, I have an addiction to chocolate, if you go over to that person's house, they might hide the chocolate. But if you say, I have an addiction to methamphetamines, they're going to lock their doors and windows and not let you in. So the fact that there's no stigma with one addiction over the other, it evened out the playing field and it made it possible to achieve. And the last thing was, which just drew me in, and if you were sitting there, Dr. Joe, when I was doing that progressive, I would have leaned into you and said, you mean I can become the person I always wanted to be, and I can leave the shit behind? That was huge. That was huge. And I can say today, and there's no way I can feel this good now, and this affliction can exist in this body anymore. And it is almost gone. And so there we go.
Behind every substance addiction is an emotional addiction. And it's the person's innate desire to regulate their emotions. We've just been programmed to rely on something outside of us to take away that feeling inside of us. The moment we notice the change inside of us, we pay attention to what causes it, and we become dependent on it or addicted to it. The emotion left the body and went back as energy into the brain. Of course, there would be no addiction. The emotion changed in that moment when she moved that energy. And of course, it wasn't like she had to try to all of a sudden abstain. It was over. It was over. There was no withdrawal. She was just, the body was freed from the past. It just got the upgrade. The living example of truth. Thank you so much.